Blog Talk Radio.
Thank you for joining us for Live Paranormal Radio. From the paranormal to the unexplained, it all happens here. It all happens here. Looking to enhance your radio experience? Participate in our live video chat 24/7 with our Live Paranormal Radio show hosts and other like-minded people. Live Paranormal.com, the only interactive social chat room supported by Full Interaction Media. Stop by now and join the fun. Stop by now and join the fun.
This is John Temporelli, co-author and editor of Heaven Can You Hear Me by the late famed Fox sighting psychic and legendary paranormal researcher Peter James.
This is the ghost host, Sophia Temporelli, and
you are listening to My Darkest Hour with Stephan Brigati on LiveParanormal.com.
Welcome to another edition of My Darkest Hour Radio. I'm your host, Stephan Brigati, and thanks for joining me right here on LiveParanormal.com and History FM Radio. Tonight I got a special guest. I know I say that every week, but hey, all my guests are pretty special, so what can I say about that? Greg, you're trying to get him on the show for a little while now. Finally got some time to chat with him a little bit, so I'm really looking forward to this. My guest tonight is Mr. Bill Bean. A lot of you know him from seeing him at many of the conventions that he speaks at. Obviously, he's been on a lot of paranormal television. Everyone watches the reality shows, and he comes up quite a bit there. He is a renowned spiritual deliverance minister, so we will get into that term a little bit more and break down the details of that. Also, is a well-known exorcist, performed many exorcists over the years, and been able to perform the exorcisms. They've been documented. You know, that subject in itself is very fascinating. A lot of people are curious about that, so we'll get a little more detailed into that. He's also written many books and articles. He's a well-known author, lecturer, and pretty much basically a supernatural expert. So let's go ahead and get Bill on the show and talk a little bit about some of these amazing things he's done. He's been on many investigations. So let's go in the green room and go ahead and bring him on in. Hey, Bill, hi, are you out there?
I'm doing great, Stephan. Thank you so much for having me on.
Hey, man, thanks for hanging out with us. And I was getting kind of late on your side. You're on the East Coast, correct?
Yes, but it's still early for me. I'm used to being up it's 11:03 here, 11:04 here now. I'm used to being up till 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, and a lot of times, I'm traveling in the wee hours of the morning all over the country, so I'm definitely used to being up late.
Oh, excellent. So, well, thank you so much. So, we're just talking a little bit about some of the stuff that you've done, but with all my guests, one of the important things I like to bring on the show is everyone has their story about how they got started or discovered the paranormal. So if you can go back to the beginning and tell us a little bit of how you got involved with the paranormal.
Well, it all started for me, and I've written 3 books, and in my first book, which is called Dark Force, I talk about where it all began. So, I didn't have any interest in this. This garbage came, onto me and my family, and in Dark Forest, I say that it all began in 1970 when my family and I moved into a 3-bedroom ranch-style home located in Glen Burnie, Maryland, in a community called Herondale. And I was 4 years old when we moved in there. And I can tell you my earliest recollections, my first sight of the house, I knew something was wrong. Even at the age of 4, I was frightened. And my sister, who was 13 at the time, had a similar feeling. She was, something wasn't sitting right with her as well. The house was semi-dilapidated. It sat at the bottom of a downhill cul-de-sac, and there was a very large and deep ravine behind it. Senior, who was a master carpenter, saw it as a restoration project, which he did quite a bit of work to it in restoring it and making it look good. My mother, Patricia Beam, was a homemaker, and she was the first to have an experience in the house, and it took place not long after moving in. My dad had taken us, I have an older sister, Patty, and a younger brother, Bobby, had taken us with him for the day to go to my grandparents' house, his parents, to allow my mother to unpack some boxes and organize without us being under her feet. And it was during the course of this that she felt a presence come into the room. And she thought that it was my dad coming in to play a joke on her. He had that type of sense of humor. And she spun around, fully anticipating on seeing him. And to her shock, nothing was there. And so she was unnerved by it and perplexed and taken aback, but was eventually able to go back to doing what she was doing. And then one of the bedroom doors slammed shut by itself. And that was enough to make her go outside and wait until we returned. So that's where it began, and it gradually escalated into, more of these feelings of presence and noises and faucets turning on and off. And my mother would make the beds in the morning and would come back, and just minutes later they'd be torn apart, and taps on the walls, and then rapping. And the house was equally as ominous and foreboding on the inside. You would walk into the living room, and it was very dark. It had dark brown paneling on the walls. And for anybody who would like to see some photographs, visit billbean.net, click on the photo gallery, and you'll see some photos of the house and the inside as well. And you can see some of these, walls, dark brown paneling. It's very dark in there. Even on the brightest of days, it seemed to be dark in that house, and it just had such a heavy feeling, and we know that when demonic entities are present, there's an atmospheric change, and certainly it was in that house, and can be accompanied by, awful smells as well. And so that's where it began. It started with these feelings of presence, and then the noises and slamming doors and all these other things, and it gradually escalated into violent physical attacks on us from these demonic entities, which greatly contributed to the destruction of my family. So that's where it started, Stephan. And so it was literally, for me...
Bill, has this gone on to, all the houses that you lived in? Was it a specific house, or did this kind of just start developing and it kind of stuck with you the entire time?
Well, after I had written the book, I found out additional information that supposedly family members many, many, many years ago had actually conjured these demonic forces, and it came upon the family and created a variety of damage, long before we moved into that house and two other family members. So I feel, in retrospect, and in light of knowing this additional information, that if, in fact, that is the case, and that's possible, and that took place, then it is possible that we were led to that house where evil was already present and manifest in the house and in the area, and combined with the evil that was already upon the family by what took place with that conjuring. So that's why it was so severe for us. And again, I do not say this lightly, it greatly contributed to the destruction of my family. Neither of my parents lived to see the age of 50, and many family members are gone and gone under tragic and sudden passings and circumstances. So the level I have been all over the country and continue to travel the country helping people become free from evil and oppression and negativity. And that's my calling in life. And I've often said, Stephan, that I couldn't be here now in doing what I'm doing had I not been there. So it was a necessary part of the journey. But in cases that I've been involved in, I have to tell you, what my family and I experienced over that period of time, which we lived in that house for 10 hellish years, and that's always the most frequently asked question, how could you stay in there for so long, or why did you? But looking back on that, there was a level of suffering that was just off the charts. So in all the cases that I've been involved in, and there are many, I would have to say what my family and I went through is more severe than anything that I've ever dealt with. And I just look back and I think about it now, thinking that it was all part of a preparation process in order for me to be the man that God needs me to be in going on his behalf to help others become free from this garbage. And it's all God working through me. It is not my own power. I would never take such claim for anything like that. I praise God for it. But there was a lot of suffering that took place there, my brother, especially my mother, who suffered more than any other person I've ever known or seen in my life.
That sounds incredible, but just hearing you talk about it, you can tell that the devastation and the torment that you guys actually went through all these years. It wasn't just like a week or something, or a weekend, this weird thing happened. This is like things that have happened your whole life, basically, and affected not only you, but your family and the people around you as well, which, a lot of people out there that want to get involved in the paranormal, they don't think about the consequences of them. They look at the TV shows, thinking they're going to go out and have fun and go chase Casper and everything, but in reality, you're subjecting yourself to a lot of danger. So you definitely need to know what you're dealing with and how to protect yourself from that as well, because they can go somewhere and get an attachment and bring it home, and that whole cycle can continue along with them, and they can be getting affected and affecting their families, their parents, their children, everybody around them, even their friends.
You're exactly right. And so this is nothing to play with. I caution people about this. And the only reason I'm involved in helping others because this is truly a calling from God. And when I first received this calling, I didn't want it because I thought, I'm free from all of this finally. And I wasn't free from all of this until 2008. And once I became totally free from all of this, then God put this calling on my life to go and help others, and I did not want it, and I resisted it for a long time, and then I came to the realization that this absolutely must be my purpose in life. And so in knowing that perhaps this was the true calling from God in my purpose, that I decided to go forward, and it required several years of studies of the Bible and many other things, and you name it, I've studied it, and that's miraculous in itself, Stephan, because when we left that house, two tragedies occurred shortly after. My beloved grandmother, Dora Harvey, died from a series of heart attacks, and then 2 months later, my beloved mother, Patricia Bean, died from a cerebral hemorrhage at the age of 44. So they were the two closest people to me in my life. My dad had left home when I was 9, and they were suddenly gone. And I had to quit school in the 8th grade. I lied about my age, and I went to work for a construction company. So I had to grow up very, very quickly, and I grew up on the streets. I hung out with the worst of the worst people. Most of those people are dead or in prison, and I could have very easily have ended up there as well. But it wasn't until I had an epiphany one day that I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I'll tell you, I had no desire to even live. I was so just empty in my life from all of the things that had taken place and all the tragedies and the trauma that I didn't even want to live anymore. So I had this epiphany one day that I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I decided that I could do better and be better. And that's when I decided to make God first in my life, and that is when, not long after that, the calling came on me to go and do this kind of work to help other people. So it's not just something that, you woke up, or I woke up and one day and said, oh, well, this is shot. It doesn't work that way. And I feel that it does have to be a calling, because otherwise, if you're going into situations like this on your own accord, and you are going to engage in spiritual battle against these demonic forces on your own accord, you are putting yourself and your loved ones in grave danger.
Exactly that. And for those who are listening out there, keep that in mind. And for those of you who are listening out there, you're listening to My Dark Star Radio right here on LifeParanormal.com, and I've been talking with Bill Bean, known as the Spiritual Warrior, and we've been talking about how his family and he has been things he's gone through growing up involve the paranormal, and we're talking about extreme haunting stuff, not just a little weekend ghost, Uncle Jim coming to visit or whatever. We're talking about entities out there and forces out there that not only affect you but affect those around you, and it affects everybody's life. So you got to be careful what you're dealing with. Don't go in there blindly. Protect yourself. Learn more about it. Obviously, of course, and like Bill was talking about, Bill has books out there that you can find on Amazon, and you can go to his website at billbean.net and look at the stuff that is available, because you want to learn from people such as Bill, who's had these experiences, talking about some of the bad stuff, which led him to his calling now of helping other people. I guess in some ways, Bill, it seems like you had to go through some of that experience to know what it can do and what you're going to have to do and stand up against, and maybe prepping you for that calling that we're talking about.
You're exactly right. And so when I go into someone's house now, chances are I have experienced that. And so if I were to go into a person's house and I was this great scholar and I was an authority on the subject and, just world-renowned scholar, and that's wonderful. There's nothing wrong with that. But if I've never had the experience or any experience, paranormal, supernatural, then how can that person relate to me? How can I relate to them? It's impossible. And I'll tell you, when people have suffered great traumas, and make no mistake, when people are under this kind of assault, this demonic assault, it is great trauma. My family and I suffered tremendous trauma for all those years, and that was another miracle from God to heal me from all of that trauma in order for me to be where I am now. So I totally understand this, so I can relate. So people, when I come into their homes to help them, they know that I'm someone who has been there, so they can trust me, and they can relate. So the wall comes down. So oftentimes when people have suffered great traumas, whatever that may be, if it is, demonic attacks or sexual molestation, rapes or murder type of situations where they may have been a party to or witnessed something or attempted murder, whatever it may be that has caused that type of trauma and that level of trauma, people don't trust. They don't want to open up to somebody because they can't trust them. So it is a blessing, and this is part of the blessing, and certainly a big part of the reason why God called me to do this work is that people can be comfortable in knowing that I have been there, so it's easier for them to open up to me than it would be to someone else who hasn't been there.
Absolutely. And, I think that's a great thing that you're doing, given that opportunity for someone like you said, some of those violent crimes are a deep-rooted and personal thing. So it's hard for a lot of those people to just open up and to talk to whoever. They can go to some place, and it's hard to talk to a counselor, but someone like yourself that can kind of open that doorway and be the ears to listen to whatever they might have to tell you. Once again, helps get rid of some of that negative energy, because I was talking to somebody today about a case that I'm consulting on, and it all started because of a car accident where somebody died and somebody saw somebody died. So this negative attachment from this trauma attached itself to the survivor of the accident and starting all kinds of chaos in their life. So these deep, heavy, emotional crimes or whatever might have happened can bring forth something negative and because an attachment can be a catalyst to a lot of things happening.
No question about it. I totally agree. And see, most people don't understand this, that we as human beings, we operate on frequency and vibration. So when our frequency and vibration is high, life is generally good. Things are positive and we are moving forward. But when our frequency and vibration is on low, and believe me, I've been there, life sucks. And it's like the black cloud over a person's head. Nothing ever goes right. Nothing ever will go right. There's always a situation, a drama, and never an answer or a solution. So when people are on that low frequency and low vibration, that's exactly where the devil and his demons are, and that's where they want us. And to where if we're with God, we're moving forward, always moving forward. Well, the devil does everything backwards, so he wants to drag us backwards. And so when a person is under that type of assault, and it could be for a variety of reasons, when they are on that low frequency, low vibration, bad things are happening and will continue to happen until somebody like me comes along, God working through me or that person to break that cycle and bind and rebuke and cast that garbage out and break the cycle of negativity. And then it becomes even more of a challenge because when people have suffered like that for so long, their mind is conditioned to so when a person has that type of mind programming and conditioning to where, and we were, my family and I were very much that way. We were zombie-like. We expected these things to happen, and they did. You know, I mean, we tend to take it in stride. And so when a person gets to that level and that level of conditioning, it is very difficult to break that. So God can work through me all day long to deliver demons out of people, but they must have a mindset change in order to be truly free and in order to truly move forward. And so I always preach that it is important to step out of the victim mode and be a victor. And the only way the person can be a victor is to walk in what I call warrior mode, which is faith, strength, and courage. And if we are walking in warrior mode, then that means we have no fear. And once we eliminate the fear, we are kicking the devil and his demons right out of our life. And when that happens, we truly know that God's with us and for us. And if God is with us and for us, then nothing can stand against us. So that is really the main component after the deliverance takes place, is I really have to either stay in touch or just spend a lengthy amount of time there to get that point through to the person. And then once they find that and take that leap, and it requires a leap of faith to step out of that way of thinking into the unknown, the uncharted waters and territories. Once they do that, then life suddenly changes for the better, and they never look back. And there have been some clients that, you know, I've gone to, and the first time that God worked through me to take it off of them, and they did have the mindset change, and they've gone on to have wonderful and blessed and productive lives. But there are other people that God has worked through me to help that couldn't quite get there with that mindset change and reverted back into that way of thinking in the victim, you know, trauma victim mode. And then things started happening again. So there have been some clients that I've had to go back to several times, and it becomes a process. So, you know, everybody's different. And again, Stephan, it's very difficult when a person has really suffered that level of trauma to think differently and act differently and step into a new way of thinking. It is, even though we're all creatures of habit, so even though we may be in a situation that is a horrible situation, people are going to stay in the familiar place because it's the familiar place. So even though it's a horrible situation, it's the situation that the person knows. So that is the familiar place, and they are more likely to stay there than they are to take the step into the unknown. And I call that, again, warrior mode. And if people will step into that type of warrior mode, that faith, strength, and courage, then suddenly life does change. And I do everything I can to not only go there and be a vessel that God works through to perform these exorcisms / deliverances, but then I'm also a counselor to where I have to, really sit down and talk in depth with these people and help them to have the courage to take that giant leap into that mindset change.
Absolutely. And that's very true. It does take some strength and a mental attitude to flip that switch. Like you're saying, they're comfortable being in that certain mode because they've been in it for so long. It feels kind of homey to them, like they're comfortable because they're used to it. And they're afraid to take that leap out of that and put the change on because they don't know what to expect. But once you get them in that mode, the warrior mode, so to speak, they have this charge about them where they're chugging forward, they're pushing against the odds that are holding them back, pushing against those currents that are trying to keep dragging them out to the endless ocean of the unknown. Just pushing and pushing and carrying on and getting stronger each and every time. And that's truly a gift from God to be able to give that strength to somebody else.
Agree with you 100%, and I praise God for it. And it's the greatest thing in the world to know that God truly has worked through me to help somebody in that way, and to know that they are all right, and they're going to be all right, and they are going to move forward. Whenever I get an email or a text or a call from a client saying, how great life is now and how great they're doing, and they don't have any more of these experiences, I can't describe the feeling, Stephan. I'm so thankful to God for that.
Awesome. That's truly a gift. Everyone out there, you're listening to My Darkest Hour Radio right here on liveparanormal.com and History FM Radio. My guest tonight is Bill Bean. We've been talking about strength and the ability to overcome and to fight back against those negative forces that affect our lives and drag us down. So, Bill, with that being said, let's talk a little bit about the exorcisms. A lot of people out there, know about exorcisms. Obviously, there's a lot of talk, and Hollywood has capitalized on the thought of exorcisms, of course. So there might be a lot of misunderstanding and miscommunicating. Not to say that it is not a very serious thing, because it is an extremely serious thing and a very dangerous thing, and I think Hollywood might even make some light of that situation and not realizing how serious and how these things can affect us and other people in our lives as well. So if you can tell us about what you can, of course, of the exorcisms, and like how people contact you and approach you about something like that.
Well, usually what happens is a person that is affected, and if the person is possessed, then they will, they don't have any recollections of what they're doing, and usually it would be a family member or a loved one that would contact me for help. Usually what happens is they will see me on TV, and as you stated in the beginning of the program, that I have done up-teen TV shows for A Haunting and Lifetime Movie Network and other stations and all that. And again, praise God for it, because I'm visual. And so there have been some instances to where I remember, thinking back right now to a well-known doctor in Indianapolis that was ready to commit suicide. And he happened to be flipping the channels, and he saw me on one of the A Haunting episodes, and he reached out. And thank God he did. And so if someone sees me, then they'll they'll go to my website, and you can contact me directly from billbean.net or billbeanministries.com, and my assistant Melinda gets back to them, and then we will set the appointment. Next thing you know, I'm on a plane somewhere, flying somebody. So that's what happened in that case, and God bless him. He was under voodoo curses, and he had some people that were conspiring against him, and there was a lot of jealousy because he's not from America, and he came to America and became, very successful. And there were some people back from his homeland that were not too thrilled about that. And so they began to do these voodoo curses, and they were working. And so this man was literally paying them to stop. And the more he paid them, the more they wanted. And to the point to where he was ready to end his life. And so thank God he saw me on TV, reached out, and I flew there, and God worked through me to deliver him. But I'll tell you, I remember when this exorcism was taking place, this man began, I had to physically restrain him. And I'm thankful to God that, I have the physical capabilities and the physical strength to be able to do that. And I'm thankful it's all about trying to control someone. You never want to do anything to hurt anybody, but I'm thankful that God has blessed me in that way because I've been in some very dangerous situations, and this was one of them. And so I had to physically restrain him. His eyes were bulging out. He was convulsing, and I always let God guide me in how I'm going to do this. And there are times that there's certain things that I follow in a cookie cutter kind of way, but then there are other things that I will deviate per the client. And that is from a feeling that I will get that I feel that God is guiding me to do something a little different. And there are times that I will perform these deliverances in a tub full of water. And I'll bless the water and make the water blessed, sealed, sanctified, purified, cleansed, and made holy before God, and then put the client in there. And this happened to be one of those times. And so he was definitely violent, combative, and it was a lengthy process. I could see, and I don't claim to be anything, but God does give me visions of things at times, and I can hear things and know things, and it is all God that gives that to me, and I praise Him for it. But in this particular case, this man, I saw a big snake wrapped around his left arm, and I could see clearly, and as the deliverance was taking place, I literally saw, in my mind's eye, angels unwrapping and carrying off his dead snake off of this man. Now, the interesting thing, because after the deliverance had taken place, and then I baptized him, and after all this had taken place, we sat down and we talked. And he said to me, now I did not mention any of this to him. He said to me he felt like a giant snake was wrapped around him and burrowing into his armpit, his left armpit. He felt like it was wrapped around his arm. Now, again, I said nothing to this man about the vision that I saw of this snake. And here he says the same thing to me. It was quite remarkable. He was delivered. I praise God for it. And it was certainly, and of course there's a lot more to it. I'm trying to condense it as much as possible, but I'm just thankful that God worked through me to deliver that man from evil.
Absolutely, that sounds amazing. And I understand what you're saying when you're saying you're trying to give me like the quick story of it, because there is so much more.
Oh yeah.
For those who are listening out there, where it is not like television. Exorcisms aren't over in an hour. Sometimes it can be days, weeks, months, sometimes years. Sometimes it's ongoing. I mean, you never know what to expect. That's why we call it the unknown. We're not sure what the outcome is going to be. But like Bill is saying here, the faith and the strength that you put into this can give you the strength to push back against these things. Now, that's awesome that you're being shown the visions in your mind's eye, obviously because it's that spiritual connection going on with there. You know, we see the person sitting there in the chair. We see you standing there doing your thing, and a lot of people just see the real world 3D dimensional of the solidness of you guys being there. But what they might not be seeing is the energy that's being transferred back and forth, all that, the stuff that's flowing through you, you know, the Holy Spirit that's pushing through you, pushing and lighting up all the darkness on these people and pushing that away. You know, a lot of people don't really see that, but that's what's going on, and that's why, you know, you're transferring this energy. It wears both of you out. I mean, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you know, just off the top of my head, there are so many things that I could tell you about so many cases that were just, they're just mind-boggling. I mean, one time in San Diego, helped another lady that she too was under voodoo curses, and she was from another African nation, and she had been molested as a child. And it's unfortunate when people are raped or molested, these demonic entities come onto the victim after that, and it just creates pure hell for these individuals until they're delivered from it. And that's what was happening with this lady. And when I started the exorcism deliverance on her, her eyes changed. And this is the only time in all the cases that I've been involved in to where I saw a person's eyes change to where it looked like reptilian. The eyes were like a yellow-green with these slits. And it's the only time I've ever seen that. And I've seen people's eyes turn black. I've seen them turn all white. But in this particular instance, this lady's eyes turned into reptilian-looking eyes, and to twist and contort in ways that a human body can't. And it was intense, to say the least. And this concluded, and God worked through me to deliver her, and it ended with her vomiting. And she vomited, and that happens sometimes to where, you know, this garbage is just burrowed so deep within the person, it has to come out some way. And sometimes it is through vomiting. And after that, I ended up baptizing her and her husband and her son in their swimming pool. And so just amazing. You know, this happens so much. I travel every week, Stephan, and life becomes a blur after a while. I mean, there's times I wake up in hotel rooms and I think, where am I at right now? It takes me a minute to realize where I'm at. And so it becomes a blur, but when I really sit and think about it and reflect on some of these things, it's just amazing. Another one was for a young man in the Maryland area. This is one of the stories featured on A Haunting. And I had a vision before this took place that he was going to try and stab me. And God showed this clearly to me, so I took it seriously. And so I ended up on this one, putting him in handcuffs and restraints. And I recall as I was performing the deliverance exorcism on him that when I do this, I put a combination. I will anoint a person's head with holy oil. And then I have a spray that's a combination of holy oil, holy water, and holy salt. And I had anointed his head, and some of it dripped down, and he spit it back at me. And then just began this sinister grin and began to laugh. And then I grabbed him. When he started to laugh, he put his head down, and I grabbed him by his hair, and I pulled him up. I literally had to forcefully pull his head up. And when his eyes met mine, and again, this is the power of God, when his eyes met mine, when I pulled his head up, then the laughter and the grin changed to this anguish. Suddenly had this anguished look on his face, and his head went straight back, looking up at the ceiling. Now, he's in this chair, and he's in restraints, and his head goes straight back, and he's looking up at the ceiling, and all of a sudden, all this black junk starts coming out of his mouth. And so that is how he was delivered. But he told me after that had taken place, after the deliverance had taken place, And after I'd baptized him, he told me that he had these thoughts and impulses that he just wanted to kill me and wanted to stab me and all this. So again, it was confirmation that God showed me clearly in my mind that the potential for danger was great in that situation.
Wow, that's scary stuff. But thank God that He showed you that vision so you could fully grasp and prepare for that situation. But once again, you're in this environment where things can happen like that. That's very scary stuff.
It's nothing to play with. It is not glamorous. I've had people. I answer emails from people from all over the world, and I also help people from all over the world. I do international Skype sessions. Just helped a lady in Belfast, Ireland, and people contact me from all over the world. And so I do the international Skype sessions with those people. But I've had people that message me and say, I want to do that. And I will send a reply back saying, no, you don't. And it is not cool. It is not the way you perceive it.
Yeah, it's not glamorous at all. But again, people are seeing this on television. They make it look like it's Indiana Jones and living the dream. And it's like, wait a minute, no, it's not glamorous like that at all. It's a horrible, horrible thing that you do, and you keep giving a part of yourself away. You're giving your own sacrifice every time you do one of these and go around energies like that. It's feeding off you the entire time until it's too weak and it leaves.
This is where God comes into this, because without the calling of God, there's no way I would be able to do this. And a lot of people, just to travel alone, it's a miracle in itself, because a lot of people would say, people do say, how in the world do you do this? How do you continue this schedule? It is God. It's God that re-energizes me. I had, most of the time I fly, and wherever I go, I'm flying. But if I'm in an area within a few hundred miles, sometimes I'll drive. And I had a case last night near the Poconos, way up in northeastern Pennsylvania, and I actually drove there, and it took me almost 5 hours each way on the drive, and it was amazing. I mean, again, this is another case, and God bless her, a lady that had suffered greatly in her life and was continuing to be tormented and attacked by these demonic entities. And so I went there, and God worked through me to deliver her, and her husband also needed some prayer as well, and they're wonderful people, and I'm thankful that I went there with them. I was supposed to be in Miami, and that trip got canceled, and I ended up, going to this place, and it's just amazing how God works, and I'm glad I did, because that lady was, she was suffering, and now I'm happy to tell you, and I've heard from her today, and for the first time in a long time, she had a very good night, peaceful sleep, and was not awakened by anything, and not tormented in any way. So we praise God for that.
Wow, that's awesome news. I'm glad to hear that. And once again, it's part of that calling. You were put in that position so they can get to you and you can help them and get them back on track. And those stories are amazing. I'm glad to hear those.
Yeah, I mean, someday I'll write a book on it. I have to be very careful, though, because I never want to divulge any names or, I would never want to do anything to cause the person anything other than blessing. So I try to get people to focus on today, tomorrow, the next day, because that's part of moving forward. So I often say to my clients that let's just forget about yesterday. Yesterday is dead. Yesterday is gone. Yesterday is not coming back. So let's focus on today, tomorrow, the next day, because we are now going to move forward in peace, freedom, and victory. And we are not going to settle for anything less than, because God is with us and for us. Therefore, we should be committed to excellence. And if we're committed to excellence, then we are going to walk in that warrior mode, which is faith, strength, and courage. And if we do that, we are not going to lose.
Absolutely. That's great news, and that's great news you can tell these people. We have about a little more time left, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to be wanting to write you emails. I'm sure you get them all the time. But for those who are listening out there, how can they be able to get in touch with you and take their story?
Stephan, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, for some reason you were dropping out there. I couldn't hear for probably the last 30 seconds. I couldn't hear anything that you were saying. I heard that you said something that we were getting close to the end of the show, and that was it.
Oh, yeah, we're getting close. We're in that last quarter here. But for those who might want to be able to contact you, what would be the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, for anyone out there that's in need, and whatever that may be, nothing too big or too small, because the small things, the little things, can turn into big things. So if you're having any type of challenges or struggles in your life, or you feel like you're cursed or under a demonic oppression, or if you have a loved one that is possessed, don't hesitate to contact me at www.billbean.net or www.billbeanministries.com. I answer every single email, and you'll first receive an email from my assistant, Melinda. God bless her. She's such a blessing. I'll tell you, I couldn't do this without her, because she handles the initial contacts and consultations with these clients, and it would be impossible for me to be able to do this with the schedule that I have. So I'm very thankful that she helps me. And again, for anyone out there, if you're having any problems like that, don't hesitate to contact me, and I will definitely have an answer for you. Melinda will answer you first, and then I'll answer you after that, and I'll do anything I can to help you.
That's awesome. So you can go to billbean.net, correct?
Yes, billbean.net or billbeanministries.com. And furthermore, if you can't remember those URLs, those sites, then just punch my name into Google or something, and it'll all come up. So I'm very easy to find, and if you send an email on the websites, it will come directly to me, and you will get a response.
And of course, you can find your literature on Amazon. You can find the book Dark Force still, can you?
Yes, and I'm very grateful to my dear friend Annette Munich as well, Stellium Books. We did the second edition through her company and Stellium, and it's great. It really is, and she's wonderful, and her company's top-notch, so I'm very thankful for that as well. So, yes, you can find it there or on my websites. And I'm offering, so my second book is called Delivered, and the third book is called 10 Steps to Victory. And what I've done with that book is I thought it would be a small gesture to anyone who is really trying to move forward in life, and some people can't afford to buy the books. So I offer that now as a free audio book. So if you visit billbean.net or billbeanministries.com, you can click on the 10 Steps book, which is a YouTube video. Click on it, and you can get it for free and spend less than an hour, so very short and to the point, in less than 60 minutes. If you absorb what I'm saying there and follow those 10 steps, you can improve your life.
Very awesome. I think I see the YouTube links. I'll put it out there on the page for those who are want to find out more about that. That way they can click on your site and get some more information. And if then you want to contact you more, they can do that and get in contact with you right away. What about events? I know you do a lot of speaking. You've been doing some stuff. What's coming up in the near future for you?
Well, I had a run there over the last several months to where I was making appearances, and sometimes I have to turn them down because I'm so busy with traveling to the clients that I don't have time to do them. But the most recent events that I did was the Mid-South with my Keith Age, and down there and played with his band and everything, and it was great. And I also want to say, while we have a second, I was very sorry to hear of the passing of Keith's mom, and I certainly pray for him and his family, and I hope that all of you will join me in prayer for them, and may God bless and comfort them in their time of mourning. And then after that, after I left Keith's, wasn't long after that, I appeared at Maryland Paranormal. I think it was a conference or something. It was an event. It was a paranormal event, and I appeared there. And I have another one coming up in. Oh Lord, I don't know. I have to look at it, but it's coming up soon, and then there's other ones that are following that. It's just my mind gets so scattered nowadays because there's so much going on. But again, thank God for the people that are close to me to remind me of, oh, you have this coming up and that coming up, and that even goes with shows. I don't do the shows as much as I used to. I mean, I was doing interviews every night there for a while, but when you get busy like this, it's very difficult to keep track of things. And for instance, I left that house last night in Pennsylvania. It was, I don't know, somewhere around 9:30 or something like that, and I didn't realize it. I had a show to do last night. Had no idea, and they're calling me up on my phone and everything, and here I am getting down the road. And, when you do these types of things with these exorcisms and deliverances, you're very drained. It's very draining. It's very tiring. And I didn't realize that I had a show, and so I saw the text and then got back with them. So here I am going down the road out in the middle of nowhere in these mountains, and I did the radio show on my way down the road. So it all worked out, praise God. But that's my life. It can get very hectic sometimes.
Wow, sounds like you've been really busy and still staying busy. I do know what you're talking about when you're talking about doing the conferences. Those get tough because I used to do a lot of them all year round, and now I just narrowed it down. And I'm only doing like 2 or 3 tops per year because I was just getting so burnt out, and I didn't have time to do anything else.
I totally understand, and it's great to see everybody. I enjoy seeing everybody, and it's a wonderful thing. But man, when you get busy like that, and then you have everything going on, it's very difficult to fit everything in. So I totally understand.
Absolutely. Well, awesome. All right, so we're going to have to come to the end of the show, unfortunately. Bill, thanks for joining us. It's been a great pleasure having you on and talking about all this stuff. Too bad it's only an hour show. We could have went another hour easily.
Easily. There's so much more that we could have talked about, but I really appreciate you having me on. I've very much enjoyed it and look forward to it in the future. Maybe we'll talk about some other topics the next time.
Absolutely. We will do this again soon. So thank you for tuning in with us tonight, and I will talk to you soon, Bill.
Look forward to it. God bless you, and God bless everybody out there that was listening in or in the chat. So have a good one, my brother. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
All right, man. Thank you so much. So that has been our guest tonight, Bill Dean, talking about spiritual deliverance and exorcisms, some of the dangers and the stuff that people go through. Obviously, when he wrote Dark Forces about his growing up and his family and all the seriousness of things that have happened, something to keep in mind, there is a lot of danger out there. It's not at all glamorous like you see it on TV and all exciting and traveling, but it is real and it can be very dangerous at times. So please, everybody, protect yourself and ground yourself and make sure you're with the right group of people that can take care of you in case something does happen. And with that being said, I want to thank you guys for tuning in to liveparanormal.com and History FM Radio and checking out my Darkest Hour tonight and listening with us like you guys do every week, which is awesome. And with that being said, I want to do a shout-out to my sponsors. Chili Man Salsa Company, CHILIIMAN Salsa Company. Paranormally hot salsa, some of the best stuff I've ever had. You can tell it's paranormal because of the ghost on the label. Also, P-Tech, Paranormal Technologies, providing us with some of the best IR lights and equipment so we can continue bumping around in the dark and looking for the evidence that we can hopefully gather from all the work that we put into this. I also want to thank Lizzie's Crafty Creations and all the wonderful things that she makes for staying comfortable and warm in those cold environments when you are on an investigation. Go ahead and you can look her up on Facebook.com and look for Lizzie Wizzy Crafty Creations. So that's going to be it for tonight. I have been your host, Stephan Brigati. We'll see you guys next Thursday, the same time, right here on liveparanormal.com and History FM Radio.
This is John Temporelli, co-author and editor of Heaven Can You Hear Me by the late famed Fox sighting psychic and legendary paranormal researcher Peter James.
This is the ghost host, Sophia Temporelli, and
You are listening to My Darkest Hour with Stephan Brigati on liveparanormal.com.
Thank you for joining us for live paranormal radio. From the paranormal to the unexplained, it all happens here. It all happens here. Looking to enhance your radio experience? Participate in our live video chat 24/7 with our live paranormal radio show hosts and other like-minded people. Live. Paranormal.com, the only interactive social chat room supported by Full Interaction Media. Stop by now and join the fun. Stop by now and join the fun.
You're listening to Live Paranormal Radio at liveparanormal.com.
The views expressed here within the programs and chats do not necessarily represent the views of liveparanormal.com.
Between science and ignorance there is filler.
Paranormal Filler 2.0 is on.
Panera now delivers, so you can order good, clean food right to your office, or door, or porch, or backyard, or front yard, or apartment, or dorm, or castle, or shop, or worksite, or wherever. For lunch, dinner, and everywhere in between. Click the banner to order or visit PaneraBread.com. Participating locations only. Panera. Food as it should be.
Hi, you've reached the High Fashion Hotline.
Hi, I make sure my family's always stylish, and all I want in return are those 3 little words.
Thank you, Mom.
Nope.
All on sale?
Yes.
Go to Old Navy.
Old Navy?
Yep, get 30% off your entire purchase at Old Navy's Thank You event.
30% off everything, even jeans, sweaters, and jackets?
30% off all of it, and Old Navy card members get 40% off at Old Navy and OldNavy.com.
I heard that.
High Fashion, Old Navy. Valid 10/11 to 10/15. Excludes in-store clearance, gift cards, register lane items, jewelry today only, and 2-day only deals. 40% off are subject to credit approval. See stores for details and exclusions.